Can mental health be cured? This is the title of today's talk, and I'll be covering 2 or 3 major causes for mental health issues and how we can resolve these. What are we actually talking about when we're talking about mental health? I remember one day I was doing a podcast and the man asked me, what is my definition of good and bad health? And I answered his question by saying there's no such thing as good or bad health, there's only health. And I still stick to that today. There is no such thing as good or bad mental health. There is no such thing as good or bad physical health. There is just health. And however your health is far more significant than the superficiality of calling it good or bad. It's there for a very, very good reason. Whatever condition your mental health is in is for a very, very good reason. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's exactly as it should be. You just haven't got to the bottom of it yet. You just don't understand it yet. That's all. You haven't resolved it or you haven't understood it. And once you resolve it, this will come about through actually your understanding of it. So how can we cure mental health? There's 2 major aspects to it. And I'll start with the most difficult one actually today. So one of the most difficult things that happen in a human being for them to deal with is when they are abused as children or when they are traumatized repetitively throughout their life. And when there's trauma repetitively throughout your life, and particularly starting as children, what tends to happen is that the child suppresses all cognitive memory of that trauma, and that results in not being able to cognitively recall or remember the story of what happened to them, but they still have the felt memory in the body, and the felt memory in the body is with them until the day they resolve that, or until the day they die. In some cases, for some lucky people, until we discover how that is resolvable. So the trauma is held in the body as a way it feels to be you. And there's many different traumas, and these many different traumas have many different feelings, and the more disturbing the feeling, the more extreme the effect it has for the rest of your life in each and every part of your life. Why does trauma have such a deep effect on people in their day-to-day life? And in this case, we're talking about why does it have such an effect on their health, both physical health and mental health? But in this way today, I'm looking at mental health specifically. So what is driving your mental distress? What is driving what you would call bad mental health? There's 2 fundamental things, and one thing is starting with trauma. The way you feel inside of yourself is the disturbance that is there all the time. If you have trauma, it's always there, but there's times where it ebbs and flows, where it actually erupts out of you and you find yourself changing. So when a person has serious trauma, when that feeling becomes overwhelming and overcomes them, then they start to show very different personality traits. They show very different behaviors to the one they normally have. They become irrational. They become hyper distressed, very, very confused. And inside of a person, when that's happening, there's a terrible feeling of something really urgent is wrong. I really need help. And they don't know what they need help with because the feeling inside of them is not understood at a cognitive level as to why it is there. They only have the feeling, the felt sense of the memory of when they were being hurt or harmed throughout their life, and the cognitive connection to that is completely gone. So without that cognitive connection, you have all these feelings coming out of you. The feeling that comes is a feeling of distress to the point of terror, to the point of something is really wrong. Not in those words, but in the feeling itself of something is really wrong. And they go into a panic. And panic is something is really wrong. Something's going to hurt me, or something is harming me. You're harming me. And these feelings become so strong that they project out onto the people and the situations of their life without any rational reason behind it. So the facts of your life won't always match up with how you feel about those facts. The facts of the person in front of you won't always match up with how you feel about the facts of that person. And your feelings, especially when it's coming from trauma, can be so overwhelming that you actually don't see the person as they are. You misinterpret what they say, which causes you to react to them, react to what you've interpreted rather than what they've said or why they've said it or how they've said it. And this creates all sorts of conflict in relationships. But coming back to this problem of trauma, it is a sensation in the body. It's not actually mental. So you cannot resolve this mental problem of extreme changes in personas, in personalities, extremely strong expressions and outbursts, either on a fluctuating level, or some people live in that state all the time where they're just, in a sense, completely distressed all the time, and all they do is suppress it, hold it, contain it somehow until it just takes them over again. And with this type of incredibly strong feelings inside of them, really distressful feelings inside of them, not knowing why they're there, they can't do anything about it. They just feel this way all the time, or feel this way at times where they become completely irrational, a very, very different person. If you're living with a person who has these tendencies, I assure you, there's trauma there. There's trauma inside that person they don't know anything about. It's not their fault. It's very difficult, I know, to live with such a person, because that person is irrational, that person is explosive, that person is displaying very different ways of behaving, almost like more than one person. Sometimes they'll have many personalities showing up out of traumas, depending on the different types of traumas that a person will go through. And they'll be very, very different people, from really loving, really warm people to really frightening, really violent people, and everything in between. And so this type of mental disorder, what we're seeing as a mental disorder, is actually driven by the underlying feelings that are suppressed in the body, held in the body as awful sensations, awful feelings that they're feeling there. And they can't get to the bottom of that because they're always in mental reaction to those feelings. So this level of mental illness or mental condition is the mental side of it. In other words, the thoughts, words, and actions that come from this are actually driven by incredibly strong sensations inside of the person, very disturbing sensations inside of the person, non-cognitive memory inside of the person, which actually still permeates through as a very similar state as to what they were in during the time, which would be, I'm terrified, or I'm being hurt, and someone's lying to me, something's happening and I don't know what's going on, someone's manipulating me, and so on. It's so many paranoias, so many phobias, all these paranoias, all these phobias that aren't based in fact are actually coming from these underlying real experiences that are only known as a felt sense of memory. But the feeling of a memory, of every memory, is very, very specific feeling, having all the information within that feeling, but not coming through cognitively, only coming out as a reaction to whatever stimulation happens in their life. And they find life very, very disturbing. Life outside of them very, very difficult to be with. So anybody, yourself or anybody you know, a friend who has this type of behavior, where they find they're often very extreme in their expressions, very extreme in their outrages and their outbursts and so on, these people are suffering a lot on the inside. And the primary problem here, and therefore the primary solution when you understand this primary problem, is that there's mostly an ongoing mental reaction, their own mental reaction to how it feels inside of them. Not understanding why they feel that way, they just feel like that, and they see the world outside of them coming at them and it's disturbing them, so they think the world outside of them is causing them to feel the way they feel on the inside. But those feelings inside of them have been there all their lives, and those feelings inside of them are merely being triggered by the world outside of them. And it's a very difficult person to live with, and a very difficult person to be. Very difficult, more difficult to be. So for a person to be this way, they are actually in a state of tremendous pain, tremendous internal distress. And so because they're so on edge inside, outside situations trigger them a lot more than a person who's not on edge. Think about it yourself. On a day that you're really stressed out, you get triggered really easily by ordinary things in life. On a day you're really calm, you don't get the same things will have absolutely no triggering at all, having absolutely no effect on you whatsoever. And so how we feel from one day to the next for every person has a huge effect, driving all of the ways in which we react to the triggers of life, to the situations of life which are outside of us. Now, for a seriously traumatized person, this is really hard going, because what happens is they actually project from these feelings onto people and situations around them with the same way in which they felt during their childhood abuse. So they may see you as abuser, see you as violent, see you as frightening when you may not be. They may see a situation as threatening when it's not. They just feel incredibly threatened. So they become very paranoid about the world in general and the world in their immediate environment. Become very frightened, very paranoid, or on the other hand, very aggressive and very reactive. And so this reaction to the world that people have, to the world outside of them, is coming from a deeper underlying trauma that's unresolved on the inside. And the reaction to the feeling is not noticed. We only notice, or such a person generally only notice, their disturbance with and reaction to the world outside of them. So it's always seeming to them that it's that outside of me, it's you, it's someone else, it's a situation that is causing my life to be so terrible. But the fact is, their life is already terrible on the inside, but throughout the whole life, they've tried to move away from that. As a child, they managed to disassociate from that, but it's there inside of them until it's resolvable, until they get to a point where they can resolve it. So the reaction to what they feel on the inside is not noticed. But when they react to what they feel on the inside, then out of that reaction, they project that reaction. They project all that feeling and everything that feeling means to them. They project that, creating an image of the world and putting significance to the world that doesn't even exist there, that is a projection of their own personal condition. And this is projection. So they don't really live in the real world. They live in a world of their own making. They live in a world that is experienced through and from the experience that's already going on inside of them. So they don't really get to experience the world as it actually is. They only get to experience the world as they actually are, and a projection of that onto the world or onto people around them. They really, really are convinced. Now, how do you help a person in this state? How do you help yourself when in this state? The main thing is you're in reaction to how it feels inside of you. It's a very important thing to understand. Or your friend is in reaction to how they feel inside of them when they're in this state. And in that reaction, they don't actually realize that they're in a reaction to how they feel inside of them. They've already gone into their habitual thinking and their ranting, their mental ranting and raving, or remembering things that have happened in life. They regurgitate the past over and over and over again. Typically, a traumatized person cannot let go of the past very easily at all. They have a very, very strong tendency to hang on to anything that's happened to them for a very, very long time, making it very difficult for people around them to let it go as well, because always talking about it, always rehashing it, always going back to it. Why is this happening? Because it's actually way further in their past that there's so much unknown to them. So much has happened to them that's hurt them so much. They've been traumatized by their parents, by people around them as they grew up, and it's all unknown to them. It's been lost, it's been forgotten, or to some extent it's been remembered, but to a big extent it's been forgotten. Either way, there's this disturbance inside of them. There's always both parts. There's something that's been forgotten and some that isn't. In a traumatized person, there's always going to be both parts. A truly traumatized person is a disassociated person. It's not an ordinary pain, it's not an ordinary hurt. It's a hurt where it's so overwhelming that you literally cannot cope thinking about it anymore. So you completely switch off to it mentally, but you can't do anything about the way it's left you feeling in your body. So the body doesn't forget. The body always has the memory there until you feel it and resolve it through feeling it. But being in touch with this sort of feeling and staying with the feeling itself is a very, very disturbing thing to do, yet that is ultimately the only solution. So it's very important for the traumatized person that I'm talking about here right now, whenever you react to the world outside of you, make sure you bring your attention back to the disturbance inside of you. And what you will notice is this is not the first time you've felt that disturbance, that anger, that rage, that fear, that oppression, whatever it happens to be. You will, if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize you feel like that often. This is there and this was there before that person spoke to you that way, before what happened right now ever happened. So what happened right now only triggered something that is already in you and that's always been in you. It's got very little to do with the trigger outside of you. So it's very important to understand this, that your reactions to the world outside of you coming from these deeper feelings that you can recognize, because they're feelings you don't like, and you'll know them, they'll be familiar. It's very important for you to admit to yourself, or at least start to admit to yourself, or at least try this, put it to yourself, that it's not about what they're doing, it's not what they've done. This is about something inside of me that I just don't understand. This is something inside of me that is incredibly distressful, incredibly disturbing, and I simply don't understand it. And it's not important to understand it mentally, it's important to understand simply that that feeling is already there, that disturbance is already there inside of you. And you won't know why. You look to the world outside of you and you're blaming the world outside of you, because if you can find something outside of you to explain why you feel the way you do on the inside, it gives you some sense of stability for a few moments. Oh, it's their fault. It's the reason I feel like this is because the world is falling apart, because there's nasty people running the world and affecting me in this way or that way. Whether that's true or not, that will not be disturbing to a person who's not traumatized. It will just be a fact that they can live with. Whereas for a traumatized person, they're fighting the world. They're fighting everything about the world. Why they're really fighting is because they're really convinced that the world outside of them is causing them to feel this way. And this is not helping them, because you can't change the world outside of you, but you can change your experience of it. And you can change your experience of yourself. And this happens by coming back into the sensation inside of you and recognizing that this was there before that ever happened, that this is just the way it feels to be me. And I'm in reaction to the world outside of me, because if I can find something outside of me that is causing me to feel how terrible I feel on the inside, it gives me a bit of a release. I can blame something else. I can take it out on something else. And people get driven into their life work, trying to change the world, trying to change everything around them because it's so bad, it's so terrible, it's so horrible. They get driven by these underlying pains, these unresolved pains, and they go to their grave with these pains, because it's all exaggerated. The world and how bad it is exaggerated massively by the disturbances that you yourself have not resolved inside yourself. So you look for things outside of you to blame for the way you feel on the inside. You've got to cut that out. You've got to stop that. How are you going to stop that? Is you just got to be really firm with yourself to start with that. This is a reaction. If it's a reaction, if something is triggering you, the question is, how did that trigger me? How did they get to you? What is it about me that I need to understand? What is it about me that is disturbed? Where am I disturbed? Not why, because I don't know why. I want to know where. And where will be somewhere in the body. Somewhere in the body you will be feeling a tremendous disturbance. Now that's all about you, and that's what you need to get in touch with in order to begin resolving your trauma, your pain. As soon as that overcomes you, when that does overcome you, you're going to find yourself, whenever it overcomes you, you're going to find yourself in these uncontrollable states of confusion, fear, rage, and absolute craziness. For anybody around you, they won't be able to understand you. They won't be able to make sense of what you're doing. They'll do everything they do to calm you down. But the person who lives with a person like this, it's not necessary to calm the person down mentally, but you need to simply remind that person, how do you feel in your body? And they'll rant and rave, they'll keep going, but just feel how you're feeling in your body. How does it feel in your body? Come back to the feelings of you and let them know, I don't think this is true. What you're saying, I don't think it's real. It might not be real. It might not be true. It might not be real. Yeah, I'm not here to hurt you. I don't want to harm you. And if that doesn't work, go in. If you're really close to them, just go in and put your arms around them. They'll probably push you away. Hang on tight. hang on a bit, and just hold them. You'll find inside and ask them, what are you feeling inside? And let them know you care. Let them know you care. That's it. Just let them know you are really worried about them. Let them not saying I'm worried about you, but show them you care. And you have to be able to feel that caring. But you might be a little bit frightened of them. If you do care for them, they've got someone who cares for them, it's going to help them a lot. You've got to let them know you care. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here with you. And they'll fight and they'll rant and rave. But inside, secretly, some part of them is feeling some nurturing from you. And that's exactly what it needs, because that's your acceptance of a part of them, of a condition in them that they themselves can't accept. So that condition needs to be embraced by someone, preferably by themselves, but if not, by simply holding their body, by holding it and feeling into them, if you can, if you have this ability, just to feel, let yourself be as calm as possible and just feel, just be there for them. Be there for them, not worrying about what they say to you, what they do. You've got to stay safe, I realise, but as much as possible within the realms of your own physical safety. Not what they say to you. Ignore that rant as much as you can. Oh, but it hurts you. Of course it hurts you. You can be with the hurt and let them get through that. But you want this to resolve. You need to be there for that person. But if you are that person, there's no one there for you, then you've got to be there for yourself. And how you can be there for yourself is keep remembering that mental rant, that mental rage that's coming out of you is not actually a mental condition. It is a physical condition. So there's actually no such thing as mental illness. That is a delusion. What is driving that irrational expression of you is a tremendous disturbance felt in the body of you, because that's where it is. That's why psychiatry and psychology doesn't work with anything serious, hardly at all with anything superficial, but it doesn't work with anything serious because they don't understand how the body holds the memory and holds all the distress from whatever you've been through in your life, and the thinking is only coming from that sensation. So your sensations in your body become your thoughts, words, and actions. The sensations you feel inside of you will constantly produce these words, thoughts, and actions that are very confusing for other people on the outside. And you get caught in those thoughts, words, and actions on the outside when you're ranting, when you're going on, when you're complaining, when you're freaking out. You get caught in them. But what you're really caught in is the terrible feeling in your body that is driving these. And so you've got to get used to coming back to the feeling in your body. So on days that you feel okay, you need to meditate. And meditate means just come back to the body of you and sit still for as long as you can, just in the exactly feeling what you are, not trying to change the way you're feeling, but just feeling how it feels from the inside of the feelings inside of you. So from in the feeling of the body itself. So you ignore your thinking. Don't worry about your thinking. That has nothing to do with it. The thinking is just the smoke from the flame. The flame is the incredible feeling, and your thoughts, words, and actions are the smoke from that fire, that crazy feeling inside of you. And that's what's coming out. That's only the end product of all these incredibly powerful and overwhelming feelings inside of you. And that end product is the craziness. That end product is confusion, because you can't find the answer. You can't find the real reason why you feel so endangered, or so frightened, or so hangry, or so enraged. You just know you do. And if you look at the thing afterwards, you look at the thing you reacted to that triggered you, you go, what was that about? Yeah, it was that thing, that trigger wasn't really the cause of this rage. The rage was there already. So the more you understand this reaction, the more you get used to coming back and being with the feelings of yourself in the body, then when this happens in life, when you get overwhelmed by these traumatic feelings inside of you, your trauma will come out into expression. Your trauma just wants to replay itself. Why? Because it needs attention. Because it needs the right attention, though, not the psychological analysis of it. That is not going to help. Talk therapy will not do a thing for this. What you need for this is you need to come back to the feelings and the sensations which are the last thing you want to feel, but the only thing that's going to start the resolution of this trauma and distress that's held, blocked up in the body of you, doing you all sorts of harm, both mentally and physically. So, This is one level of mental illness. The other level of mental illness is where there is not so much trauma locked up in the body, but where you've been fed a lot of ideas about yourself and fed a lot of ideas from the outside about life and the world. A person who's been brought up in a religion is a traumatized child who's being abused as a child by all the nonsense he's being fed, and this causes him to believe in things like he might be taught to believe that if you don't do the right thing, God is going to punish you. So he goes through his whole life being frightened of God going to punish me for this and God's going to punish me for that. And if you have sex before you're married, God's going to punish you. It's really bad. It's really sinful. You can't do that. So they go through their whole life having to suppress their sexuality and become distorted in different ways in that area. And on it goes. Anything religious, anything of a belief system is a form of traumatization of the individual. And it's because you're feeding this individual with false information about themselves, false beliefs about themselves. I say false because they're not beliefs about themselves at all. They're beliefs that somebody else has made up about life outside of them in another time frame. The beliefs about themselves, you don't need beliefs about yourself. You have yourself. You can know yourself, but you'll never know yourself whilst you have beliefs about yourself, because these beliefs cause you to think crazy things. And this thinking is a mental illness, this mental illness of thinking about things that are really distorting, confusing, that aren't actually grounded in the reality of the body of you, grounded in the reality of the life of you, the real physical, practical life of you. If they don't meet there, then it's not reality. This is just delusions that you've been fed throughout your life. Ways in which you've been taught to think about yourself, ways in which you've been taught to judge yourself, what you've been taught to fearing God that doesn't exist, or fearing the devil that doesn't exist, all these different things that you are fed that aren't actually knowable or known things in reality, because they don't exist in reality, and therefore they don't exist at all, but they exist in your thinking. And once they're existing in your thinking, you are then having a mental illness. So it means your thoughts are made up of delusions, and this will cause you to react to life around you. And also these types of thinking cause you to feel very distressed about natural sensation. A boy growing up or a girl growing up with ideas around what you should and shouldn't do in sex, when their natural sexual feelings come up, they become at odds with those feelings, and so they become quite disturbed and destructive around their sexuality, or they become distorted in their relationship with their own sexuality simply because of some stupid belief that's been imposed upon them as they've grown up. So this is another form of mental illness, where what's coming in from the outside is coming into you. You've taken it on as a belief, and you've had that impregnated into you, indoctrinated into you, causing you to feel all sorts of conflicts with natural sensations of yourself and natural urges of yourself. And then on top of that, causing you to be in conflict with anybody in the world that doesn't actually match up or live up to those ideals as well. So you start to react to the world around you out of your belief systems. When you react to the world around you out of the belief systems you've been fed, you are then thrown into conflict and reaction with the world around you, and the world itself becomes evil, and whatever your belief system has told you. And it's not evil from something hurtful in your childhood, in the sense of being abused as a child or being hurt as a child. It's simply coming from the indoctrination that's come from the outside again. But it's come into you, it's caused confusion, it's caused conflict in you with just being what you are. That's what religion is designed to do. That's what all belief systems are designed to do. They're in addition to the facts, and they're always in conflict with the facts. And that conflict with the facts means you can't be at ease and at home in the facts of you. You can't be completely comfortable with what it is you are, because you've had all these ideas that you should be something quite different. And so this is a mental illness. It causes a great deal of distress in people's lives. Not just religion, but anything that you've been taught to think about yourself. Any way you've learnt to think about yourself, from social media, from the culture that you grew up in, from your friends, from your peers, whatever you've been taught to think about yourself is not about you. It's what they taught you to think. And what you've been taught to think about you is actually not about you. It's not about you at all. It's just thoughts that you've been taught to think, and you're trying to impose those thoughts on you, and it creates tremendous conflict because you can't live up to those thoughts. So the more superficial level of mental illness is when you are in conflict, when your thinking is in conflict and your desires and your urges are in conflict with the facts, and if your thinking doesn't measure up with the facts of life, then you'll be in conflict with those facts of life. And being in conflict with the fact of life, what's wrong is your thinking is wrong. If your thinking and the way you feel doesn't measure up with the fact, with the reality of the situation, not what you see through that thinking, but the actual fact of the situation, then the fact is the grounding thing. The fact is the only reality you have, and your thinking is not the reality. When the fact is what you have, you grab hold of that fact, and there is the fact. So when you get caught up in your superstitions, you get caught up in your paranoias, you get caught up in your beliefs about yourself, you get caught up in your self-judgment, your self-hatred, or your criticism of other people, this is all a type of mental illness. So mental illness is either you are in conflict with the facts inside of you, how it feels to be you, or you are in conflict with the facts on the outside of you, the condition of the world you live in. That conflict with the facts means your thinking is not lining up with the facts, and therefore you're unable to accept the fact of life. And this is a very childish state which most people we get into because of our pain. The childish state is, I don't want things to be the way they are. The mature state is, things are the way they are. These are the facts of life. And it's not about changing the facts of life. It's about learning to live with the facts of life. Both the facts of how it feels to be me and the facts of how the world is around me. And what do I need to be able to live with the facts of life? I first have to start resolving my reaction to the facts of life, or on the outside of me, or the facts of life on the inside of me. Resolving this reaction. Reactionary thinking is an objectionary thinking to things that are real on the outside or things that are real on the inside. I don't want things to be the way they are. Well, they are the way they are, and that is reality. I don't want to feel the way I feel. Well, you are feeling that way, and that is your reality. Now, there's nothing wrong with the way you feel. You just don't understand that yet. And only by being with that disturbing feeling, that awful feeling over time, will you go deeper into that and really come to understand and also fully resolve your conflict with being that way. And you'll fully resolve your conflict with being that way long before that way changes. So it's not about changing the way you are or changing the world on the outside. It's about coming into that conflict, feeling that conflict and its effect on you, but not blaming the world outside, not blaming your feelings on the inside, the distresses on the inside, but being with that, being with those feelings, or being with the distress that you feel with the world outside. And being with that distress is actually going to trigger a resolution of the conflict, of the intensity of the conflict that you have with either. So the more upset you are on the inside, the bigger are going to be your reactions to the outside. So the less upset you are on the inside, the smaller are going to be your reactions to the outside. So your reactions are essentially the problem. Mental illness is essentially reactionary thinking. Just reactionary thinking. I'm either in reaction to the facts I don't want in the world, or I'm in reaction to the facts of how it feels inside of me. And then it becomes very complicated when there's tremendous trauma inside of a person, because there's all sorts of subliminal and even known messages coming from these feelings out of the body of you. All these memories do start to come back at times. You don't understand what they are, you don't trust them, and you don't know what the hell's going on, but you do feel something very urgent on the inside. Because as a child, where you've been abused, or throughout your life where you've been abused, whether it's religious abuse or whether it's social abuse or whether it's sexual abuse or physical abuse of any kind, these abuses, why they do so much harm is that they distort our experience of what it really is to be ourselves. So when we have training from the outside that tells us the world is something that it isn't, then this distorts our experience of the world we live in, and we can't see the real world for what it is anymore. When we have ideals about how we should be, then we try to be what we should be, but we can't be what we should be. We can only be what we are. So that causes us to be in conflict with what we are, whereas really we should be in conflict with what we're being told we should be. That's what's wrong. That's the delusion. That's the addition. So coming back to this, can we resolve mental illness? Definitely. I've gone in pretty strong today on two of the most important aspects of mental illness. One is trauma on the inside, and one is the reaction to things in life on the outside because of ideas we've been fed about those things. So cultural ideas, religious belief systems, and any sort of external input, being taught what to think. It's not being taught how to think, but then we're taught what to think. What you've been taught to think, these are not your thoughts, but they are causing you a lot of trouble because you're going along with them, you're believing them, but they do not start inside of you. So if those thoughts didn't come from you, they're not your thoughts. They're thoughts that you've been taught to think, and you just believing them. But you don't even know that they're not your thoughts. You actually think they are your thoughts. And so you really have to start examining this. Understanding reaction is the key, and you'll get good understanding of the reaction out of my Undo app, undoapp.com. The very first part of that is all about reaction and projection. Very important. As you go through it, you'll learn a lot more about how to really feel and how to really heal on every level, all throughout. When I say every level, there's only really one level, the physical level, but every aspect of the physical level. As I pointed out today, mental illness is in fact a physical ailment. It's not originating as the way you're thinking, it's originating as the distress inside of your body. Yeah, whether it's trauma or whether it's distress you feel because your beliefs tell you that that thing over there is wrong. It's the distress that drives you to continue thinking about it. Coming back to the distress and feeling that distress to its natural end is what real meditation can do for you. And real meditation means the meditation of the body, feeling the natural feelings, the way in which you currently feel is how it is to be you. That's your natural state for now, but because that's the state you're in as a result of what you've been through. That's your natural state. It's natural for you to be that way because you've been through this, whatever it is you've been through. But being with that will change. That will change over time. The way that feels will change. The way you think about that will change. Not by trying to change it. This is a very important thing, but by being with it as it is in the body of you. So whichever your mental illness is, what you think as your mental illness, and I don't really like that term either, because mental illness simply boils down to whatever your indoctrination is, whatever harm's been done to you. And so you should be in the state you're in. It's not you're not actually wrong for being in the state you're in. It's just that you haven't known what to do about it. And this is where you either need help directly. I do have private sessions to help you with this, to help you really get back in touch with the trauma or the feelings or the distresses in your body and heal it right there at the seed of all mental illness, in the sensations of the body of you. But if you don't want to go down that track, look at the app. The app is very, very informative. If you take yourself through that process, you'll find that'll help you tremendously. And so yes, mental illness can definitely be resolved. The main reason mental illness can be cured is because it's not a sickness in the first place. It's a condition that has resulted from what you've been through, and we simply haven't understood that the condition we are in is perfectly fine and natural that we're in that condition. It's not something that needs to be cured. It's something that needs to be fully understood. You are not an illness that needs to be cured, and your condition is not an illness that needs to be cured. You are a human being that's in the condition you're in, and that needs to be understood primarily from and for yourself, by you, because you're the only one who can really know how it feels inside of you, how it feels to be you. Support will be necessary if it's extreme. Support will be necessary if you simply can't bring yourself to do it for yourself. However, if you don't have support, you're going to have to do it for yourself. And you can do it for yourself by understanding what I've been talking about today and following up by using my meditation app. I'm not trying to sell the meditation app here. I'm just giving you somewhere else to go after this talk is over. So you're not just left out there on your own, not knowing what to do. But the primary thing is that this reactionary state is what mental illness is. Being in reaction to the world outside of you, or the feelings on the inside of you, that is essentially all mental illness is, but that can get pretty extreme. And so it's not something that can't be resolved.
There is not something wrong with you for being in that condition. You are naturally in that condition, and any human being, any animal on the planet would be in the condition you're in if they had been through what you've been through, including all the stuff you can't even remember anymore. And that's why you're in the condition you're in, not because there's something wrong with you. You are naturally in that condition because of the effects of your life up to this point. Now, from this point on, it's very important that you begin resolving these effects. But the main problem you're going to have is you avoid these effects. You avoid the way it feels to be you. You deny it, you suppress it, you drug it out, you drink it out. You do anything you can to not feel the way you feel. And that's exactly the opposite to what you should be doing. Yeah. You need to feel the way you feel. And I know it's very, very difficult. So you're going to have to start with little increments. Meditate for 10 minutes, meditate for 20 minutes, meditate for half an hour, meditate for an hour. Meditation meaning be with how it feels in the body of you, and use my app to help you with that, because you'll find it really difficult doing that on your own. And you need to be reminded over and over again, particularly when you're in these conditions, you need to be reminded in the middle of that condition what's really going on for you. That yes, you're freaking out about the world outside of you, but what's really going on is you're freaking out inside, and you don't know what to do with these feelings. And that's because there's nothing you can do with these feelings that's worked for you before. All you ever do with these feelings is react to them and freak out. Reacting to those feelings is inevitable. So you be with the reaction, but keep coming back to the feeling itself, into the body. Get back to your body. Get out of your thinking and back to your body. I mean this. Come back to the source in the feelings of the body of you. If you're one of the people that are suffering from these sort of conditions, or have a friend who suffers from these conditions, from mental illness, there is a cure. But the cure is first the understanding that you're not sick. This is not a sickness. This is a condition you're in as a result of what you've been through, and your body is screaming for attention. In your body, something is screaming for the right attention. The right attention is to gradually get better and better and better again at feeling the distresses in your system, feeling the distress as it is within you. And at this point, you start to resolve. As soon as you're feeling it, any 10 minutes feeling it, 2 minutes feeling it is actually starting to heal it. And whatever you heal today is resolve stress from your system today. And whatever you heal today won't be there to heal tomorrow. You'll be healing a similar feeling for sure, but it's just more of the same stuff. And there's going to be a lot of that in there for most of you. So whatever you feel today, you heal today. And that gives you more that you'll be in contact with again tomorrow. And it will eventually end in its own time. But there's nothing you can do to end it, because you're not supposed to do anything to end it. You have to feel it, to give it the attention that hurt you, all the attention that you've never had, all the attention you've never given yourself. You've not given yourself the right attention. You've always just been trying to get rid of this stuff. It's not there to be got rid of. It's there to be felt and healed. But remember, the answer is in the body of you. Just stay still, feel what's going on in your body, and let your body take care of it. Stay there for as long as you can. Just stay with the sensations of your body, and your body will take care of it. Life is something that happens. The healing of life's effects is also something that happens. These are not things that we make happen. We cannot do these things. We have to let them. We can't do the healing. We can't impose healing on us. That is not the right approach. We have to let the healing happen, which means be still, be with the sensations in your body, no matter how scary it gets, no matter how frightening it gets, no matter how distressful it gets. Remember, if you're feeling it, it's real, it's there, and by feeling it, you are healing it.
Thanks for watching. If you want to take your meditation and healing journey deeper, download my meditation app, Undo, which is available exclusively on my website, undoapp.com. Okay, bye for now.